Jacob.
Dude, that's so sick.
You don't understand that Jacob eats dino nuggets like 10 times a week.
Well, it's one of the main food groups.
Yeah.
And he eats like 30 of them.
It's the food pyramid. Yeah.
The base of Jacob's food pyramid is that.
Pterodactyl chicken nuggets.
And then
Ethan, all I would
cereal.
say is it's probably not directly related to your other things, but if you have it,
My favorite part about Christmas is that Dad is as surprised as what we get. Doesn't remember.
Yeah, that was just as surprised as us.
they're the original ones though. We didn't want to pay more than like $80 for them.
They're so worth to get them for the pros. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Those are so good.
I'm saving up my quick back points for AirPods because if you
Quick.
do that-
It's like Dogecoin, better.
No, because if you have a higher conversion rate, you can get 150 points a month, and 150 points.
Car wash.
Isn't that where you work?
Yeah, I work at Quick Back. And so
Bro, I walk up to all the cars and be like, quack, I'm gonna quick quack, quack.
No, but like,
What do you want?
Be in a duck costume.
one-on-one, I have.
I just drive up and use the vacuums and leave.
I do that too all the time. Nobody cares.
You filming me right now?
Yeah.
All right, Adam, your turn.
Sleeping.
You've been filming my.
All right, guys, I am in the hood. Haha, dad joke. You guys saw a little bit of my Christmas. I basically spent the morning with my family, went lifted, and I spent some more time with him in the evening. Did a little bit of work too, just because it's part of running a business. I'm on a morning walk right now. Been awake since about 7. Just doing some client check-ins, some content creation, emails back and forth with some people, just trying to schedule out some podcasts for the new year. So excited for that. But I have a call pretty soon here, and I'm going to be finishing up my check-ins. Then I have my deadlift session. I have a triple RPE 8. I'm going to show you guys a little bit of that. Sort of guide you guys through my thought process behind programming conventional deadlift versus sumo deadlift a little bit later on in the video. But yeah, hopefully you guys like the video. Hey guys, so I want to go over my conventional deadlift workout today. So for this block, I'm doing only conventional because, quite frankly, if you are in a position and you have to ask yourself, should I pull conventional or sumo, and they're about as strong as each other, which is the case with me, you should probably try to pull conventional because conventional is more consistent. You can have a higher output on it in general, in terms of like technique, not breaking down. Whereas sumo, it's a little bit more easy to have. It's more sensitive to like slight changes in technique. So here I worked up to 617 or 628 for a set of 3 on like RPE 8. It was way better than I thought it was going to move because I actually tweaked my back on Monday, do squatting 501 for 3. Just lost weight from skiing. Like I'm skiing right now. That's definitely noticing like there is some effect in my training right now, but it's mostly like related to if I lose a lot of weight, which I typically do, but it's just really hard for me to keep up with the energy expenditure when I go skiing on top of what I normally already do. So I usually will drop down some weight, and I notice I have some like a little bit more leg soreness and hip soreness, especially just because skiing is kind of just like repetitive lunging across the mountain for, in my case, once a week for 4 to 6 hours. But still important to have something else going outside of training. I'm still able to make progress. I'll probably cut skiing out like a month out from my meet, just to make sure that I am having all my recovery resources go towards training. But after that, I did 2 sets of 6 with 540. I've actually been able to get away with doing straight sets on my conventional deadlift, which is something that's not very common. Typically, with conventional deadlifters, I tend to program in a little bit more lower RPE work on average. So lots of their work will be like more like a sub 5 or sub 6 and I'll usually have drop down sets, not really any straight sets. Whereas with sumo deadlifters, typically they can perform a little bit more work and not need as much like load off the bar. A lot of this is sort of related to, I guess, range of motion. Steve Novi has a great video. I'm going to link on this so you guys can kind of see where he, there's a study that they did on this. Where basically, they found that depending on range of motion, like it was a really big correlation between how many reps lifters could perform with like 80% of their max. And this is actually pretty correlated pretty well in my experience to work capacity and how much people kind of need off the bar on each lift that they are using. So in the case of a sumo deadlift, it's typically going to be a little bit shorter range of motion, especially if you can get more upright. And then with a conventional deadlifter, you're going to be a little bit more longer range of motion, and that's going to result in having more work done in general. So you need less sets and usually a little bit lower intensity to just manage fatigue in that area. So I have been doing straight sets and I'm just fine. But basically how I do the things in my head is one of the things I tell all my athletes is like whatever your top set intensity is, that's your peak intensity for that day. If your down set is getting around to as hard as where that top set was, drop off 5-10% off of the bar because we don't want to get fatigue to be exponentially high from that session. But one other thing about programming in conventional deadlifts versus sumo deadlifts is I find that generally the conventional deadlift, it's just more taxing and you need to be more careful with how you program it. Whereas opposed to sumo, it tends to be a little bit more resilient to fatigue. So usually, I'm going to be programming in conventional a little bit more conservative volume. I might use some more RDLs to drive volume on it because it's just some people find doing their reps extremely taxing. So doing more RDLs for extra volume, like I do that after my conventional deadlifts because I know that I need a little bit more work at hip hinging. But if I'm going to get a stimulus with a set of 6, like I need to be at 500 plus pounds, versus I can do a very strict RDL or SLDL and get a really good stimulus with a little bit less fatigue. But essentially, a lot of programming for conventional versus sumo deadlift comes down to basically having slightly higher average intensities on sumo deadlifters in general, and then lower average intensities of sumo deadlifters conventional deadlifters in general. Lower average volumes with conventional deadlifters versus higher average volumes with sumo deadlifters, and then typically you'll also see sumo deadlifters might respond better to higher average reps. So say 6 to 10 reps versus conventional deadlifters might need to stay more in that 1 to 5 rep range because again they're doing more work per every single rep. In order to manage fatigue, you need to basically make sure you're biasing the reps to be able to actually manage that. So that's something to always take into consideration. But ultimately, programming the deadlift also has a lot to do with where you put in your squat training. Some people find that they get really taxed from squatting. Typically, they're going to be a little more bent over, more hingy, like myself, and they're going to find. Typically, I find those people have more success placing their deadlifts more further away from their squat. So, say you have a day of rest between your primary squat day and your primary deadlift day, that tends to work better. Whereas people that tend to be a little bit more upright or more efficient on their squat they might actually tolerate doing their squat with their deadlift on the same day better. And this is one of the things you have to work around with programming in general. For myself, I just found that I do better more away from squatting because I'm more bent over, a little bit more hingy. Whereas, if somebody's a little bit more upright, they might find that they actually feel a little bit better and more warmed up in their legs and not really having back fatigue for their deadlift and just feel better in that way. So, yeah, anyway, this starts off 16 weeks out from my next meet, so I'm really excited about that. I'll show you guys the prep throughout the entire time, but hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have any questions, ask down below. If you guys are interested in coaching and programming, also links to that are down below.